Warning, this episode contains strong language.
And you know what we know now about, we know now that, for example, businesses that have more women in their leadership make more money.
I believe that.
Businesses,
I believe that.
The other piece of that is that businesses with more diversity in general make more money.
Welcome to the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Join me and a famous guest. We discuss their career, life, food, Texas, and everything in between. Let's get started.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Hope you're having a great day, because I am. And this podcast is going to make it even better. My guest today is Gloria Feldt. I'll give you a little background on her. She used to be the president of Planned Parenthood, actually, for a really long time. She's been with Planned Parenthood since the 70s. So, yeah, she was an unbelievable person to speak to. We just had the greatest conversation. But she's also, let me just give you a little background. So she's also, this is from Wikipedia. She's also a New York Times bestselling author, speaker, commentator, and feminist leader who has gained national recognition as a social and political advocate of women's rights. In 2013, with Amy Litzenberger, she founded Take the Lead, a nonprofit initiative with the goal to propel women to leadership parity by 2025. She is a former CEO and president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, directing the organization from 1996 to 2005. So, you know, we talked about that. We talked about abortion. Yes, touchy subject, but we did get into it. And, you know, look, where do I stand? Yes, a woman's right. I don't even think it should be an argument. I don't even think, you know, yeah, this is tough. Okay, you're going to have to listen to this one and decide where you stand. But look, you know, we just had a great conversation about women's rights, and I just loved Gloria. She was awesome. Really sweet woman, and someone I respect a lot. And yeah, really enjoyed this conversation. You are too. So I'm not going to ruin any of it. We'll just let you get to it. So really cool conversation. All right. And all right, what's the next thing, right? What do we always do here? It's time for the next segment. The Bet You Didn't Know That segment. That's right. Bet you didn't know that. All right, so our first one from Texas Real Food, because they are our sponsor. Don't forget, go to texasrealfood.com. But this is from their social media, specifically their Instagram. So follow them on Instagram, Texas Real Food. All right. Bet you didn't know there are over 250,000 millennial farmers. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of farmers. That is a lot of farmers. You know what I wonder? Is that in Texas or all over the world? Or what? You know, I don't know. But it's like an incomplete fact. Well, there you go. You know, there's 250,000 millennial farmers. I would think it's the whole world. That's what I think. That's the whole world. That's a lot. Maybe not. All right. Kale. Oh, let's start up. Bet you didn't know kale is the most nutritionally dense vegetable. That's right, guys. Kale. So eat it. Stop denying yourself kale. There's many beautiful ways to have kale. So do it. From the guy who never eats kale. I don't ever eat kale. Ever. All right. Next one. Bet you didn't know sharp knives are more likely to cut you. Is that, okay. True or false? Sharp knives are more likely to cut you. The answer is false. Why is that, you say? Why would a dull knife more likely to cut me? Because a sharp knife is going to cut. It's not going to slip on the vegetable you're cutting. Right? You're going to get nice, clean cuts, and you're going to be able to do it. When you got a dull knife, that that shit is going to be sliding everywhere. Your knife's going to be sliding off. You know, you're going to be putting more pressure on the knife. You're going to be moving your supporting hand and those fingers around more, probably, and you're more likely to cut yourself. It is true. So keep your knife sharp. All right. Bet you didn't know there are 2.1 million farms across the United States. That's a lot of farms. 2.1 million farms. So we got 50 states divided. I mean, I guess Hawaii shouldn't be included. And, you know, whatever. That's a lot of farms, guys. And I think most of them in Texas. A lot in Texas. That is a ton. I mean, that's a ton, right? All right. Next one, last one. Bet you didn't know about 11% of U.S. farmers are serving or have served in the military. Beautiful. Wow. That is amazing. That's actually quite amazing. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that segment. Bet you didn't know. Make sure to check out Texas Real Food on Instagram for other food facts and fun things like that. All right. Don't forget also to go to texasrealfood.com/discover, and you'll find other things on the site, right? Articles, reviews, recipes. There's all kinds of cool things. All right. Oh, okay. There's actually a really cool... well, it's Christmas, right? So there are Christmas dine-in and takeout in Houston. That's a cool article. So if you're in Houston, that's a good article to read. It's the top places for Christmas dine-in and takeout in Houston. And look, there's other stuff on there, guys. So get on there, check it out. It's a great site, great part of the site, honestly. TexasRealFood.com/discover. All right, guys, what do you think? You ready to get to this episode with Gloria? Really enjoyed this. And look, Planned Parenthood has been in the news lately, so this is a really relevant conversation and a great conversation. So I think no matter where you stand on the argument, this is a good conversation that you'll enjoy. So let's just get to it with Gloria. All right. Don't forget also you can check out our website, thelonestarplay.com, for any other past episodes and any other information about us and the website. All right. So let's get to it, guys. Gloria Feldt. Enjoy. Well, great. How's your day going?
It's really going pretty well so far. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a great dinner last night at a Spanish restaurant in town, socially distant and all that. And it was my first time really doing that. So that was, I felt nice actually to get out for one
Oh
evening.
my gosh. Yeah. I haven't gone inside a restaurant yet. Here in New York, everybody's eating outside on the street.
Yeah. That's what I did too.
In the noise, in the dirt, but who cares? It's so nice.
That's my favorite way to eat, actually. Just in the busyness of everything. But right. Yeah, I sat outside last night too. It was actually pretty cold. I was like, damn, I don't know if I'm gonna do this again. But
I'm pretty worrying about what people are going to do Thanksgiving, because I just saw on television that in Canada they had a big surge of COVID after their Thanksgiving celebrations. And I'm emailing my kids and no, you are not going to do a big inside thing. You are not. Yeah.
And that stinks. I don't get to see my family. We talked about it as well, and just you got to make that decision. And it's definitely very tough.
Next year will be better. Next year will be better. So
absolutely. Next year will be better. We'll be fine. We'll get through one. It'll be
exactly. No, maybe I'll get to come to Texas next year.
Hey, there you go. You're from Temple, right? That's what I read. You're from Temple, Texas.
Yes, I am.
When's the last time you've been to Texas? Has it been a while?
The last time I was in Texas, when was it? Probably it was for somebody's graduation from UT, probably, or maybe it was South by Southwest. I can't remember. Like 2 years ago, I think. I was there several times for different things. Yeah. I guess I've been to Houston since then too. Yeah, actually I was in Houston just before everything shut down. I was in Houston for a family event. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Okay. Oh, before everything happened. Yeah. Before COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, well, great. Yeah. Texas is, well, you said you're in New York. You're in New York City specifically?
I am specifically smack in the middle of Manhattan right now. Who would have thought?
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. I have a friend who's in Brooklyn, and I've talked to him a couple
Uh-huh.
times since he's been up there. But it's actually been a few months since I've spoken to him. What's the, we see everything on the news here in Texas, but what's really, what's it like up there?
So hold on just a minute. I just noticed my Wi-Fi was on the wrong Wi-Fi. So I'm going to do the other one so it gives better cover. Okay, so I live in Arizona as well. And I will say that I was in Arizona for like 6 months right after all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
As New York was bad, and then Arizona got worse and worse. And so coming back to New York, the vibe is completely different. I'm going to just compare it to probably what's going on in Texas as well, which is people here are pretty compliant with wearing masks and social distancing and generally being careful.
Yeah.
They had it so bad, they learned. And so in many respects, it's actually much easier to be here. Also because you can call and order anything, anytime to be delivered to you. You do not have to leave your apartment.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so true. Especially now, right? They have perfected the delivery, hopefully by now.
Yes. Yes,
right.
absolutely. Are you in Austin?
Yeah, I'm in Austin.
Yeah,
Yep.
I thought you were in Austin. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I dream of living in Austin someday, but probably not going to happen at this point in my life. But because most of my kids are in Arizona now. My daughters followed me to Arizona. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, that might be a tough move, right? They'll be like, Mom, why are you going to Texas?
Right. Yeah. They're already mad at me for going to New York. So.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I would probably say the same thing. Mom, I don't know. Is that the same thing? My mom's actually had a very tough time with everything. My mom's very active and just, likes to stay busy, and it's definitely been rough on her to not be able to get around and be active,
Yeah. It is bad. I am very lucky in both places where I live, because in Arizona, you can still get out and walk when the weather's not too hot.
Yeah.
Awful when I left in August, but now it's nice again. And here I'm like a block from Central Park. So honestly, I think Central Park has kept New Yorkers sane.
Nice.
And the park system in general. Otherwise, you'd go nuts. But
sure.
Walking in the park kind of saves your bacon mentally.
I get that completely. That's probably the case at all times for New York. That was always my favorite part of going to New York City, was going to Central Park and walking around.
Yeah.
Always
it's
beautiful.
All good. Yeah.
It's probably changed a lot. I used to live in Philadelphia, and let's see, 2008 I moved, so 12 years. So I'm assuming I haven't even been back. So I'm assuming everything is just different now. I don't know. I've heard New York City is especially different from when I used to.
Yeah, I'm fortunate in that where I live, it's still pretty busy, and there's a lot of activity. But when you walk all the way across town, the further you get from the middle of the city, there are just more stores closed, more things boarded up. It's going to take a good while for things to come back here. It will come back. Will come back. But it is going to take a while. There's been so much. First of all, so many people have moved out of the city. The people who are enough to have a home, say in upstate or something like that, they've moved to their other house.
Yeah.
And those, but I just feel like it's good to be here. It's good to help support those businesses that are here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I try to buy stuff and eat out a lot, or have order in or whatever, to try to support the folks that are trying to hang on. And
that's fantastic,
because I want them to be here.
Yes, I think that's fantastic. That's what all of us that are able to do that sort of thing should do it the most we can.
Exactly.
Even more than you would normally, for sure. 100%. I love that.
Right.
It's interesting. I did read a stat. We'll move on from this, but I just quickly, I read this stat about New York specifically. I think you said about people moving. Well, you did say about people moving to their second homes. This was more about people leaving the city. I think it was like 300,000 people since the pandemic had broke out have moved away, which is kind of crazy. Rent prices are dropping, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's insane. Which I get. It can be expensive to live there. I mean, you're a block away from Central Park. That's crazy. So you must have a phenomenal place.
Well, I would say that it is. I mean, it's for New York. It's a good size. Like this is my spare bedroom, my office, my exit. 10 other things, right? So it's not. But you give up space for other amenities and just to be. For me. And it's so funny because my husband, who is from Brooklyn originally, is always saying that it's because I'm from Texas that I love New York so much. Because I grew up in these little tiny towns where there was none of this busyness, none of this stuff. But I like both. I think I'm lucky. I've had both. I hope you can see my West Texas.
I can. I've actually been looking at it. Yeah, I can see it. It reads perfectly. No, that's awesome. Representing.
And it's next to my Bill Laurel.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
So I've got Texas right here in my office.
I love that. Well, Texas, if you're from Texas, like it never leaves you. Everywhere I've lived, all over the world, really, Texas is always stays with me, no matter where I go.
Indeed.
So, well, Gloria, again, I'm really excited to talk to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time today because. Yeah, we're in sort of some tense times, and I thought, well, this sounds like somebody that can help us calm down, inspire us, maybe give us some, hope throughout this podcast. So that's what I'm hoping for, and just some questions. I saw that you helped run Planned Parenthood. I guess am I saying that right? I don't I don't want to mischaracterize that, but you were former president of Planned Parenthood, right?
That's correct. And, for most people, Planned Parenthood is Planned Parenthood is Planned Parenthood. I actually had 3 different CEO positions with Planned Parenthood. First started out in West Texas.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I had read that.
In Odessa, Midland, and we had 17 West Texas counties. In fact, my husband just asked me, where was Loving County? He saw something about it in the paper today. I said, that was in my territory. There were 200 people there. And so I started out there, and then I went to Arizona and was the CEO of the affiliate in Arizona. And then I became the national president, which I did for 9 years. So I had a 30-year career in all.
Wow, that's unbelievable. That's so unbelievable. It's been in the news a lot lately, Planned Parenthood. And I get, people are trying to, I guess one side of the aisle is trying to get it defunded and get it taken away, which is quite odd to me. One, because I don't think really people understand what Planned Parenthood does. So maybe we should start there, because I think that's where the confusion comes in. Well, my wife, for instance, when we moved from Spain to America, back from Spain, she used Planned Parenthood for the longest time to get just care and this and questions and all, birth control pills and all kinds of different things. And I don't think people understand that they offer, all these other services. So, maybe we could go into that a little bit deeper of what Planned Parenthood is.
Well, you started out by saying maybe I could give you some inspiration that things get better. And so that's a good place to start with that particular issue, because one of the things that is very true is that actually most people do know what Planned Parenthood does. And, when you survey the public, you find most people do know. And in fact, it's usually a stronger, there's usually more support for Planned Parenthood than there is for almost any other institution, including either political party, the Chamber of Commerce, you name it.
Wow.
People know and like it. But you know what? It's the people who are naysayers who always are loud, and the people who are supportive who are always quiet. And the people who are supportive need to learn not to be quiet. They need to learn to speak up. And I know, apropos of what you were saying about your wife getting her health care there, I remember when we used to have picketers in Arizona that I would have to walk through every day. And sometimes when I would do like talk radio, they would do like, well, you got this side and you got that side. And I would say, and tell me, what is the other side of a pap smear? What's the other side? I don't get it. So I think the good news is most people do know to this day, and I have not been with Planned Parenthood for now 15 years. And although I still get identified that way, no matter what, I always say you have the scarlet pea on your head forever. It doesn't matter. But the thing is that to this day, people will come up to me and say, "You saved my life," and I know what they mean. I know what they mean. It's an organization that's there for people when they are most needed, and for a wide range of things. So I think that's it. I just learned not to, whatever. People can say whatever they want. They can think whatever they want. But I know that if you know where your values are, if you know what your values are and you live by them, then it's all good.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I love that. I didn't know some of that stuff. That actually does make me feel a lot better about it, to be honest with you. That makes sense that the naysayers, as you put it, would be the loudest, because that's usually the case with most things, right? The people that disagree with it get the loudest. So, what, okay, so we've got, pro-choice and pro-life, which, first of all, I kind of hate those terms. I don't know how you feel about those terms and splitting that up. I guess you kind of, talked about it briefly just a second there, but how there can be two sides to this argument is kind of an odd thing. And, but those two terms. So I'm curious, first of all, what you think of those two terms of pro-life and pro-choice.
Well, I'd like to just make both of them go away, because in truth, what this is really about. I honestly, these issues, first of all, let me just say, those are usually terms that are used about abortion specifically, as opposed to a range of things that women's health care and family planning and all of these kinds of services that, frankly, 95% of Americans use birth control at some point in their lives. So again, where's the controversy? I don't forget it. You just have to know, you have to not get yourself thrown off. So I think both of those terms really ought to go away, because in truth, what these issues are about, and the reason I have moved from what I was doing with Planned Parenthood and reproductive health, which of course is very important, and I'm very grateful that I have had that opportunity. But the reason I have moved toward the larger canvas of women's leadership and gender parity in pay and power and position is because these issues are really about whether women are going to have an equal place in the world. It's about who gets to control women's lives, who gets to control the options women have in their lives. As somebody who was a teen mom, I had all three of my kids by the time I was 20, had married my high school sweetheart. And, I drank the Kool-Aid that this was what a woman's role was, which is what we were taught, in these little Texas towns as I was growing up. And then I kind of woke up, and the thing that actually helped me wake up was, in fact, the birth control pill, the advent of the birth control pill, that let me realize, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I could actually decide for myself when I have children, and if I want to have more children, or if I don't. And it enabled me to start college. It enabled me to start college when my youngest was 4 months old. And I started to community college. And that's the other thing that I learned, which is that, it doesn't matter where you start, just start. Start. Do something that will help you develop yourself. And it took 12 years for me to finish. But during that time, I had the opportunity to get involved in the civil rights movement and some other community service work. And what I learned from that is that people working together can make change.
Yeah.
People working together can make, even if you don't have any power when you start off. And so those are all the things that drive me and that led me ultimately to want to spend the third act of my life doing things that will, in the broader sense, bring about equality to women and men together, because I think we are in this together. We gotta work this out together. But I have always believed, and I always said when I was with Planned Parenthood, that these, those reproductive rights issues are really about women's role and place in the world. And if you believe women deserve an equal place in the world, well, then, women need to be able to control their own bodies. That's number one. But the other thing women need to have an equal place in the world is the ability to support themselves. Because when you can earn your own money, you don't have to stay in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It just changes the power balance entirely, and it enables equality to happen. So that's what drove me to try to figure out why women hadn't reached equality in leadership, why I wrote my last book, No Excuses, 9 Ways Women Can Change How We Think About Power. And then that led me to start Take the Lead, which is the nonprofit organization whose mission is gender parity in leadership by 2025. And that's
by 2025. I love that.
Yeah. You have to put a stake in the ground, you have to set a goal.
Right. Yeah. You got to set a goal. You got to set a finish line, right? Something to strive for. No, I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really inspiring to hear, to be honest with you, especially during these times. It's good to know that there's people out there fighting, for these things that, some people I think want to do more in their lives. I'll be honest. I just don't think they know the way, or time could be, as well. They could have 2 or 3 jobs. I get that too. I'm very respectful of that stuff. I don't get down. Oh, you're not doing enough. Maybe they're single mom. They got all this work. They don't have time to help the same way you might be able to help. But it's great that, this is just amazing. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No,
please. You first.
No, I was just going to say there are different stages in life.
Yeah. Good point.
When I was home with 3 little kids, I couldn't do as much either.
Yeah. Good point.
So you do what you can do when you can do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. I like that. The reason I brought up Planned Parenthood, I know it's part of your history before, but it's been in the news so much, and I personally have been seeing it so much, and it being attacked like I've never seen it, and it's just such an odd time. I think having grown up in Texas myself, and although I've lived a lot of other places and moved away and sort of came back, Texas is still Texas, and I always grew up with that idea that, okay, women can't make that choice about having a child, right? They can't make the choice of abortion or not to have the abortion. And I've just never understood that argument. But it seems like hasn't been at the forefront like it is now, where, they're just trying to attack it completely. And it's people will they'll make their vote on that one choice, on that one, that one policy. Their whole vote will go towards that. And I've even heard that the Catholic community is worried about Joe Biden being president, being a Catholic, but being, pro-choice, him being for, or whatever the word, we want to use. So I'm curious what you think about that. How does that sit with you?
Well, first of all, it isn't worse than it has been. Trust me on that.
Yeah, you did say that earlier. Good point.
It's bad. It's just like, but it is always about this. It always is the same. Ultimately comes down to the same thing. And, again, you're talking about voting patterns. And when people are against something, they're more likely to be zealous, and they're more likely to vote on that issue. When people are not so zealous, when people are for something, and usually most people don't have a single issue that they vote on. They look at a lot of different things. And I think that I used to always say it was good that there were twice as many pro-choice people as anti, because it took twice as many of us to make things happen. But it's okay. I feel like it's like the late Congressman John Lewis used to say, you got to make good trouble. It's a worthy thing. It's a worthy thing to do with your life, to make good trouble. So I just encourage people to, not to shy away, I actually have one of my 9 leadership power tools, and I developed a whole leadership program from over time from my book and with what I'm doing with Take the Lead. which I should probably clarify. We aren't just an advocacy organization. We do, our program works because we do a comprehensive program of training, coaching, mentoring, role models, and thought leadership to sort of change the narrative in our own heads, to realize that we are powerful. We do have the ability to actually be, to have authority in this world. So that's why it works, and that's why it works. And I'm trying to remember what my train of thought was here, but it was that the thing is I was going to tell you about the 9 leadership power tools. So the curriculum starts with rethinking power and understanding that we don't have to think about power the way it's always been taught to us as the power over you, and that there's a finite pie and we all have to fight over that pie. And if I take a slice, there's less for you. So I ask women to rethink that and understand that power itself has no attributes. It's what you do with it. It's like a hammer. You can build or you can break with a hammer. Yeah. And so once we shift that thinking that it's the power to actually innovate, create, make life better for ourselves, our families, our communities, the world, I would see women's faces relax, and it was like masks would fall off. And so there's that piece of it. And then there are the 9 leadership power tools. This is where I'm coming back around to the answer to your question.
Yeah, no.
Which is that one of the leadership power tools is wear the shirt. And the connection here is that I got the metaphor, wear the shirt, when I was a CEO of Planned Parenthood in Arizona. And we have a small clinic in a little rural town. And there were like 3 young women who worked there. And I was there visiting with them one day. And they said, every day before we go home, we have to make a decision. Are we going to wear the Planned Parenthood shirts that we wear in the clinic to look professional, or do we take our shirts off and, put on our street clothes? Because if I have to stop and get gas, if I have to get milk, do I want to have to answer questions about this? Do I want? And I said to them, I think maybe that's exactly the time you need to wear the shirt. Wear the shirt became for me a metaphor for letting other people know what you believe and what your values are. Yeah. And people respect people who have a point of view. And even if they don't agree with you,
that's true.
They will respect you more if you are clear about what your values are and you're willing to share them. And I think particularly as a leader, you need to be willing to share what your deepest values are. And people will follow people with a point of view. So that's the tie-in. That's where this all ties together with the 9 leadership power tools, because I learned most of them from my work at Planned Parenthood, to be honest with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense though. Are there a lot of, are there men in leadership in Planned Parenthood?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. It varies from place to place. I mean, when I was in Arizona, we always tried to have pretty much gender balance on our boards, and less so on the staff, because the health centers were seeing mostly women.
Yeah.
And that, so they felt more comfortable with mostly female staff, but sometimes we had men who worked in the clinics, and that was fine. But on our board in Arizona, we always tried to have pretty much gender balance, and we alternated board chairs. Male, female, male, female, male, female, very deliberately.
Interesting. What is there? I mean, I guess for just the balance of it, or what can men bring to the conversation about Planned Parenthood or women's bodies or their choice? I'm curious.
Well, gender itself is a social construct.
Okay.
Whether you've been socialized to think of yourself as male or female, and you may not fit into either of those binaries, and I think today we're much more alert to the fact that some people are non-binary, some people are trans, some people are, feel that that they're fluid in their own gender identity, and that's a whole other conversation to have.
Sure.
But we
absolutely.
have grown up in a culture that has a gender binary, and so, and that binary is all about power and who holds it. And so in order to have equality, in any respect. It's important to have all of the people at the table who, in a community, in a culture, in an organization, or whatever. And so that's the reasoning behind it. Is you want to have, and you know what we know now about, we know now that, for example, businesses that have more women in their leadership make more money.
I believe that.
Businesses,
I believe that.
The other piece of that is that businesses with more diversity in general make more money. Yes. And so I think for any organization, you want to have diversity. You want to have different kinds of people, not just gender differences, but you want to have ethnic and racial differences. You want to have cultural differences. You want to have age differences. You want to be able to have many different perspectives at the table in order to do the best innovation, creativity, solve problems, and be able to understand, look, we live in a diverse society. So we need to have everybody at the table working together to solve whatever problems we're trying to solve. So, I mean, that certainly includes gender diversity.
Absolutely. No, I love that answer. I think that's fantastic. That makes absolute the most sense, to be frank. But my first thought was, well, what's a guy doing at Planned Parenthood? What's he gonna? What's he gonna know?
But have something to do with this, you know. Guys did have something to do with pregnancy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's usually the case. I you need a little more education, but I'll see what I can do. I'll send you a book.
Make sure it has pictures, or I won't understand it. That is so funny. No, but you're right. But that is a great way to look at it. I wish more people looked at things like that, to be honest with you, about leadership in particular. I was going to ask you, what do you think, as a woman that's listening to this episode or watching it, what would you say to them, right now during this time, are a few things they could be doing during the pandemic, for instance? Because I'm sure, does the advice and stuff that you have in your books and everything you write, does that change because of the pandemic right now? I'm curious, if any of the things sort of change because of what's happening.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because we are in a different time right now. And the latest data is that women are leaving the workforce at about 4 times as much as often as men, either because they have lost jobs. Because if you think about it, what are the jobs that women have typically held? Childcare centers close.
Yeah.
Healthcare, obviously healthcare systems are overrun because of COVID, but the basic healthcare is been cut back because people aren't going for their regular healthcare. They're trying to stay away from medical offices. So many women in healthcare have lost jobs. Many women who have been in education have lost jobs. So women have lost jobs at greater numbers than men, but also the burden of caregiving still in our society tends to fall on women's shoulders more than men's. That is an inequality we need to start working on. And I think if there's something that the pandemic has shown us, it is that we really need to have more, let's say, shared parenting responsibilities. Yes. Because it's the women really more than the men who are saying, I can't do this job and be a teacher for my kids here at home. I just can't. So those who can leave the workforce financially, if there's a 2-earner family, it's usually the woman who will leave the workforce rather than the man. And so we are getting set back in our progress toward equality quite a bit. So I think that what women can do during the pandemic, first of all, is not to lose sight of who they are and what their intentions have been, what their goals will be, because in another year, it's going to be better again. I mean, we now know there will be vaccines. It's going to take a while for them to get to everybody. It's going to take a good while before people feel safe and comfortable, say, sending their children to school full time or whatever, but it will happen. And so one of the things that I often think to myself, for my own self, is what am I going to wish I had done in the time that I had during this pandemic? that I'm not traveling, I'm not going out, I'm not having meetings, I'm not getting on a plane and going to make a speech in Kalamazoo. I'm not spending that time, I'm not spending that money. What am I going to wish I had done and used my time better during the pandemic? It's not just baking bread. I love to bake bread, and I hope we get to talk about food, by the way, because
yes.
I wanted to be sure that we could talk about food because I love the name of the podcast. But it's, it's cool that people are learning how to bake bread. That's cool. But what are you going to wish you had done? So it's a good time to, for example, brush up on some skills. It's a good time to maybe do some reading you hadn't had time to do before. In your, to help your, whether it's self-help or whether it's whatever it is that makes you feel you're learning something and you're being able to think. You need to keep thinking. Those are the kinds of things I would think about. And I actually, so at Take the Lead, we've had to pivot all of our courses to virtual. Yeah, and so the first thing we did actually was we started just providing a lot of free things, free content for people about the issues that they were worrying about, like how am I going to deal with my kids and how am I going to do this? Yeah. But as time has gone on, what we've tried to do is to think about, well, what is going to help women re-enter? And so we are going to be launching early next year. We will be launching some opportunities for women to rethink their career path. Maybe they need coaching. Maybe they just need to sit down and get a process to what we call to do a strategic leadership action plan. The goal setting, the intention setting. So we'll be doing more online courses. We'll be offering more coaching and those kinds of services for women to help them get back on track. Because, a pandemic is a good time to rethink. Maybe you weren't happy doing what you were doing. Sure. So get a new skill so that when opportunities open up again, you can do whatever your heart desires.
That's great advice. I love that. Do y'all offer the courses in other languages?
Oh gosh, I wish we did right now. I have been training other people to deliver the curriculum, and we do have several of our leadership ambassadors who are trainers who are Spanish speaking.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Spanish.
Maybe one or two who speak in an Indian language. South Asian Indian language. And and one or two who speak French, I think. But we haven't translated the whole program into other languages, but we are certainly open to that. We would love to do that.
Well, I was thinking about my wife. Although she's a citizen and she speaks English, Spanish is by far her most commanding language. And, we only communicate in Spanish. We don't even speak English to each other. So I know she would be very interested in this, but I know her first question to me is just like, is it in Spanish? Otherwise.
Well, if she would like to become a leadership ambassador, then we could actually do the training in Spanish.
Well, that's interesting. Wow.
Always open to that.
Yeah,
she could just look at our website, taketheleadwomen.com, and go to the leadership ambassadors, and you see you can just let me know there. If you're interested, anybody who is listening can just let us know there if you're interested in becoming a leadership ambassador, and then we provide the curriculum and the training and how to deliver it, and what are the particular parts of it that really help give women these breakthroughs in their leadership intentions and capabilities. And so then you can go do it as a business of your own, is basically what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I'm gonna tell my wife about it. She's that's awesome.
I know. And we do get requests. We actually do get more requests for Spanish language than
I would imagine so, for sure. That absolutely makes the most sense. You mentioned something earlier that I didn't want to interrupt you, but I had a question about. You were saying, which I agree with, shared responsibility for the birthing process, if you will, right? Parenting in general. Not the parenting part, because that I think people do split. Well, maybe not all the way, but that initial, it could be better, but the initial part, the woman gets pregnant. It's really the woman's doing all the work, So I just do want to talk about that. What can men do more to help out, and what can women suggest to men, or what can they do to help that process even?
Mm-hmm. So the answer that always comes to me first is a simple one-word answer. Listen. Listen. Just listen and you're going to find out. She will tell you what you can do.
Love that. So
listen and hear. Listen and hear. I always tell my husband that, because he likes to make sure that I know that he can hear very well. Yeah. When I'm saying to him, did you hear what I said? And I'll say back to him, I know you can hear, but did you listen? Yeah. Listen, take it in. And it's honestly, I mean, it is kind of amusing to say that, but the truth is, it has to do with power balances and the level of privilege that you have. And, people who have had more power and more privilege don't listen as well. They haven't had to. Yeah. And one of the reasons why companies with more women in their leadership make more money is because women have been socialized. You have to listen. People with less power have to be able to listen. So women are better at reading the room. Women are better at kind of like sitting back and going, I know what's really going on here. This is what's not being said that is really going on. So I say that jocularly, but it really is true. I mean, that one word, just listen, and you'll hear and you'll know.
That makes sense. I think in any part of life, right? Listen to the woman. What that's what my wife tells me all the time. I need to listen.
So I'm not alone.
Trust me. No, she's like, you're deaf. You're playing deaf. I know, I'm like, no, I promise there is. I lost some hearing. She's like, I don't believe you. We joke about it all the time. It's such a funny thing between us.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, yeah. She's gonna get a kick out of this episode, for sure. Okay, Gloria. So, that was another question that I had as well, which is, what women can do. That's basically what I want to talk about here the most is, and I do want to. You know what? Okay, this will be the last question before we get to food, because I definitely want to talk food with you. So, so I guess, you know what, forget my question. Is there anything that you would like to bring up that I haven't brought up before we get to food? That's a much better question.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I first of all, it's really fun talking with you. This has been a lot of fun. And, awesome. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate your questions. And I think you've been just, spot on about important issues that needed to be talked about today. And I would just want to encourage everybody who's having difficulty right now in the pandemic to know that generally speaking, the build back usually is better, and that times like this really create more innovation than any other time in our lives and in our history. And so, as difficult as the situation may be, and I think, again, for women who have had their careers disrupted and men who have had their careers disrupted, to think of this as that kind of a time. And we will look back on it, and we will have learned a lot. We will have done a lot. And I hope that one of the things that will happen as a result is that we'll be more cognizant of the need for everybody to share in the leadership and the power in our society. So that's really, for me, that's really what simple justice and social justice is all about. Everybody ought to have a chance to, to live their best life and contribute their best skills. So that's my little sermon for the day. That's it.
I love it. I couldn't agree more with all of that. I think that's fantastic. I'm excited for this episode to get out and for people to hear this. That's the truth. Okay, well, let's move to some food. Okay, so what do you? Okay, this is something I always ask people about food. What's your favorite dish to cook at home?
My favorite dish to cook at home. Oh boy. Well, actually, I guess I do come back to bread. I probably do come back to bread.
Okay.
I feel that bread. First of all, I'm a breadaholic. I'm just a breadaholic.
I never heard that before.
I cannot get through a day without bread. I know that I would get rid of this spare tire that I've always carried around if I would stop eating so much bread. But I just happen to love bread. So I've given up. I've given into it. And I think making bread is probably my favorite. I'll tell you a little story. And I actually, one of my podcasts I talked about bread and the art of leadership and the similarities and the things that now. So when I was in West Texas, we had a very small Jewish community in West Texas. And one of the things that we discovered, though, was that everybody liked what they considered traditional Jewish food. So the ladies of the sisterhood, which I was involved with at the time, would make these meals. And I learned the best recipe for making challah from the mother-in-law of one of my friends. And all of my friends then wanted the recipe. And it ended up, I think, getting published in the Odessa newspaper.
Oh, wow.
And everybody in West Texas was making this challah. And so what I realized is that the thing that can bridge people of all kinds of people is making bread together or sharing a recipe. And I'm going to just tell you, it's probably the best bread in the whole entire universe. So that's my favorite thing to make. And it's the thing that I do when I want to give a gift to somebody, or because they always love it. So it always makes me feel very good. That's my favorite. But the other thing I should tell you is, getting back to the Texas plate here, is that especially in New York, I love to make chili.
Yeah.
I love to make chili.
That's
and
great.
I learned to make red chili from the moms when I was teaching Head Start, and we would do these big chili dinners.
Yeah.
So I will make huge pots of chili and serve it to, I used to be able, of course, have lots of people in my apartment, but now I just have to take them little bags of it.
Yeah.
But chili is just food for the soul for me.
No beans, right? Do you use beans?
But I do the beans separately.
Okay.
So that
you can. Yeah.
I'm a bean and chili person.
Yeah, you like it. Okay.
I like it. Yeah.
I don't mind it.
But I like to have all of the accompaniments separate and have the chili itself just be the pure chilies and meat.
I like that.
And then everybody can put whatever they like on it. And it's kind of fun to see New Yorkers try to figure it out. It's even more fun to try to see New Yorkers try to figure out what to do with tamales. So I get a kick out of that.
That is so funny. You just you just get the camera out and they're just like, why are you filming me? I just watch this.
All right. Like, do you eat this, like this thing that's on the app? Do you like, or do you
like National Geographic? It's just like, right. Just like, oh, that is too funny. That is so funny. What is there any, I can't remember ever going to get Texas food up in the Northeast, to be frank.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard, but there's a lot now. There's a lot more now. I made friends with a woman here in New York named Zarella Martinez. And she, for many years, had a wonderful restaurant on the East Side that it was actually recommended to me by a Mexican chef in Phoenix.
Nice
restaurant I used to go to in Phoenix. And so she had excellent Mexican food, not as much Tex-Mex, but she had more Mexico City and other areas of
Interior.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Tex-Mex when we would ask her to do it. But there are more now. There are a lot more now. And I think that it's still hard to find really good Tex-Mex here, but you can find good Mexican food of some kind in some region or another.
That's good. Yeah, that's for sure. New York has, amazing options for food goes. Yeah, Tex-Mex is hard to get outside of Texas and get it good. It's the quality is always. I remember in Spain, I went to a Tex-Mex place and it was the worst experience of my life, hands down. I mean, I remember just looking at everybody working there. Like the guys, just shut it down. Shut it down. This is a disgrace. Yeah. You got a picture of John Wayne up here. He's not from Texas, right? What's he doing up here?
Texas. Oh, no. Oh, how awful.
They just were mixing everything. It was just like this mix of it. And the food was just, they don't have tortillas I don't even think there's tortillas in Europe, period. I don't know. I never ran across. Maybe every once in a while you can find a bag at a grocery store of some flour tortillas or something, but no, they're not eating tacos or anything. So Yeah, it's just a total nightmare for me. I didn't realize that. I was like, oh man, there's no tacos over here. What am I gonna do with my life?
What are you gonna do? I know. On my first only visit to The Hague, I was astonished that very near my hotel there was a Mexican restaurant. So of course I had to go eat there.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I had the same experience you had.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't even bother. Don't bother.
Yes,
Make it yourself, or
yes, do something
go
else.
Back to Texas.
Go back to Texas. That is so funny.
Yeah.
So the bread, you make this bread, challah bread. Just tell us quickly a little bit about that bread, of what, for people that may not know.
Sure.
What bread is.
Sure. So challah is traditionally it's a soft white bread that is traditionally made on the Sabbath to have as part of the Sabbath dinner. And but now you can get it anywhere. You can get it everywhere. It's generally braided, so it's kind of pretty. And sometimes it has poppy seeds or sesame seeds on top. And the curious thing about this particular recipe are things like you're supposed to boil the water first and then let it cool back to lukewarm. Now, for most yeast breads, you just start with lukewarm water. Yeah. In this one, you boil the water. I don't know what the magic is, but you boil the water first. You let it cool back to lukewarm. The other thing is that you don't preheat the oven. And so there's something about that the chemically in the rising of the bread, it has a more cake-like texture than the challah you get at the grocery store. So those are two things that are different about it. It's a rich bread. This particular recipe has a lot of eggs and sugar and flour and all kinds of stuff we're not supposed to eat. But
do you have to let the dough proof is same as any other sort of bread, or is there?
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
Like most yeast breads. Yeah, you let it rise once, and then you knead it until it's really silky smooth, which is one of the good things about making bread. I mean, it's like this physical thing that you do.
It's a workout for sure.
It's a workout. And then you let it rise again, then you shape it into, if you're going to braid it or if you're going to put it into some other format, and let it rise a second time. And then at that point, you brush it with egg. And if you want to put seeds on top, you can do that. It also makes super good cinnamon rolls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, super good cinnamon rolls. Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know if I've ever had a cinnamon roll like that. Oh.
Yeah, it makes really good cinnamon rolls. Yeah. Now, I have a daughter who is kind of a good chef. I mean, she actually had her own catering company for a while. And she has done fancy things with it. Like she'll use different kinds of flour and put flax seeds in it and make it healthier. And I have to say, as much as I love her, I'll just stick with my plain, my pristine white flour, white sugar, eggs.
It's perfect.
Recipe.
The way it is. Yeah.
I feel like that's the better way to go with it. It's just a whole different thing when you use whole wheat flour, or you want to have it healthier for your kids, but sometimes you have to have things that are not so healthy just to, good.
Yes.
Good.
Absolutely. I think, being a chef myself, I think probably her mentality is you just like to play with things.
Yes.
That's really all it is. Get bored with doing the same thing over. You're like, let me just try something else. Right. But it's not that it's going to be better, or that it's just honestly out of boredom, you will just start taking some. That's the true, something I learned as a chef early on was the good chefs that I worked with taught me, take something familiar and give it a twist.
Yes.
So, I'm sure that's what the approach she's taking.
Any
other?
Yeah.
What do you? No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, similarly, I have a potato roll recipe that I cut out of a women's magazine when I was back being Susie Homemaker with my 3 little kids at home. And I did that. But, that was, I always call that my kids all went to Permian High School. So I always call that the Friday Night Lights part of my life. And I was Susie Homemaker. I did it all. So I cut potato roll recipe out of a women's magazine, and it has stood our family in good stead for all these years. But it's the same thing. My daughter, she frou-frous it up.
She tweaks it. Yeah.
I stick with the same old. You have to have Betty Crocker potato buds, which you have to order from some specialty shop now because they don't even sell it in the grocery stores anymore.
Oh, I was like, what is that? Yeah, I didn't even heard of that.
But it's so good.
What's the one food you miss from Texas the most, you think?
I would say the one food that I miss the most, because I can make most of the Mexican dishes that I like.
Yeah.
But that I miss really good Texas barbecue.
Oh, I get it.
I miss that barbecue that you can get. Those places in Central Texas where the old guys sit out and they've got their pits in front of their houses, and you can just stop and all they have is barbecue until it sells out.
Yep.
And they slice off the barbecue, and they have some potato chips and white bread, but that's it. That's all they, and red soda pop. That's all you can get in their store. But that barbecue is like, can't get that in New York. I've tried a lot of the barbecue places, and they've tried in New York, but you can't do it. I think you have to have Texas air.
That's actually a great point. We've talked about that. I've talked about that a lot with a lot of different people over the course of years, to be frank with you. I actually just had a pit master on from a very famous barbecue place outside of Houston called Truth Barbecue. They're in Houston too, so I guess next time you go, you should check them out. Truth Barbecue.
Truth. Okay, I'm going to remember that. Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, we were talking about that, about, the different barbecues and how they get made, and the air does have a lot to do with it, just because, you're using offset smokers, right? So the airflow is the whole process of how it cooks. So yeah, it's going to make sense that the air will have a significant, effect on the flavor.
Very interesting. Very.
So yeah, that makes total sense. Very insightful, critique, really, to be honest with you. But I get the barbecue thing, missing it, not having it around. Texas has the best barbecue in the world, in my opinion. I know there's good barbecue in other places, but the thing about Texas is, even like our worst barbecue is still better than, anywhere else. So, it's really hard to get bad barbecue.
Right now, you're making me smell it. I'm just like.
Oh man, that is too funny. That is so funny. I get so I should just go eat barbecue, because I haven't had it in a long time, to be honest with you, because it's just around all the time. So I'm just we'll get it another time, but now you're making me want to go get some, so I'll make that happen. Well, Gloria, this has been such a great conversation. I got to tell you, I just really appreciate you taking the time today and talking with us. Was there anything about food that I didn't bring up that you wanted to throw out there?
Patrick, there's so much. There's so much. Just thinking about this, I started thinking about so many childhood memories of Texas food. Sure. And I guess the only thing I would say is just to share with you is that one of the things I started thinking about was, so my grandmother immigrated through Galveston, literally had to get married on the train that she came from New York to Texas on, and moved with her husband to a little town called Rogers in Central Texas, a farming community of 500 people. She had never cooked. She learned Southern cooking there.
Wow.
And so she was my main caregiver for my first 6 years of my life. So I was with my grandmother a lot. And I started thinking about all of those like good Southern dishes that she used to make and longing for them. So I'm going to have to go to the grocery store right after this and load up on ingredients and start cooking.
I get it. I totally get that. Yeah. Those memories are the best when you think about, with your family and eating food. And I get that. That's
hot water cornbread. She made hot water cornbread. I could live on it.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
More bread. Yeah.
But hey, I love bread too. I'm with you. I'm a big bread eater myself. I like bread at almost every meal, to be frank with you. So
Oh, good. Hopefully we'll break bread together sometime.
Hey, that would be fantastic. Absolutely. That would definitely be great. Well, look, Gloria, I wish you, the best up there in New York, where you're at. My best to your family, and just, hope you guys just stay safe through this. I know we're getting sort of into, it's another wave coming, right? So we've all got to buckle down again and sort of not forget that this virus is still happening, which I think is happening to some people. So yeah, just my best to you guys up there, and hope everything goes well. And again, I thank you so much for this wonderful interview. Our listeners are just going to be thrilled with this.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you. It's been great fun, great questions, lots of good conversation, and good food talk.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right.
Well, again, be safe. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Lone Star Plate podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com and you can search your city for stores, butchers, restaurants, farmers markets, and more who are using fresh, artisanal, organic sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For more information, go to thelonestarplay.com. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Until next time.